climate change, what we are laying out today is a massive industrial revolution. It's an energy transition. It will benefit the economy. It will save the economy money by 2040. It saves people money on their energy bills. It saves people money on their driving costs. But all of it is underpinned by a cheaper electricity price.
And the committee has other recommendations. It says no new boilers should be installed from 2035, just 10 years' time. It says we should be eating less meat and dairy. Cattle and sheep numbers should be cut by about a quarter by 2040, it says, and suggests some pasture land could become woodlands or wetlands. And it also says the cost of flying will likely rise as airlines pay for the industry to be decarbonised, so your foreign holidays could get more expensive. The latest carbon budget comes as some politicians are questioning the need to tackle climate change. 2 weeks back, Reform UK said it would scrap the net zero agenda entirely.
Net zero is one of the areas where all the parties agree. Everybody agrees. Labour agree, the Conservatives agree, the Lib Dems agree, the Greens agree, the SNP agree, Plaid agree. Everybody agrees that our net zero targets are desirable, achievable and attainable, apart from, that is, the new kids on the block in Parliament, which is Reform UK.
The Climate Change Committee's response to that? It says investing in net zero is not just about climate, it is also an investment in the country's future prosperity. And it says the savings should start to kick in from around 2040. Justin Rowlatt, BBC News.
Our climate editor Justin is with us now on the sofa. They should kick in those savings, but there's a lot to spend first.
There is a lot to spend, and like some of the targets sound really daunting, don't they? 80% of cars electric by 2040, just 15 years' time. Every other home with a heat pump. But what the Climate Change Committee is saying is that will only happen if electricity prices are reduced. So they're saying the absolute priority, this is all built around electrifying the economy, decarbonising electricity, then electrifying everything. That's the way you squeeze carbon out of the economy. They say this will only work if we can drive down electricity prices. And I've said to them, well, how are you going to do that? They've got a first step, if you like. They're saying there are some environmental and social charges put on your electricity bill. They're saying to the government, take those off, put them somewhere else. They don't say where. They're not giving that kind of advice. That could go on gas, it could go on general taxation. That would cut bills by about 19%. So the message here is, look, we want you to do this stuff, but we recognise it will only happen if it's cost effective for you. They want to drive down prices, make the environmental option the cheapest option as well. And that way, hopefully, we'll go, actually, we want a heat pump. We're not terrified of this new technology. We want it because it's going to be cheap.
How achievable is it, though? Honestly, how much of a difference is a heat pump going to make?
Heat pump makes a massive difference. So if you think, because we're halfway to decarbonising electricity, our electricity supplies are just half the carbon. So the gas boiler in your house, 80% of the carbon emissions from your home. So it's by far the biggest thing you could do is replacing your heat pump. So it does make a really big difference, but they are much more expensive. There's a $7,500, sounds like a lot of money, doesn't it? $7,500 grant from the government to help you do that, but they're still more expensive even if you get that $7,500. So, the Climate Change Committee is saying, government, you need to step in and help people, particularly on low incomes, afford this new technology and also make some of the changes to your home you need to make them really work well, draft proofing, insulation, that kind of stuff.
We just saw in the piece that installing one might improve the environment, give you a cleaner conscience, doesn't necessarily bring down the bills that much.
It doesn't at the moment, and that's the point. If we drive down electricity costs, the cost of using them will reduce as well. They're much more efficient. Every unit of energy you put in, you get 3 units of heat out. So it's astonishingly efficient, but the problem is the cost of electricity per unit of energy is 4 times that of gas. So, all of those savings are kind of taken up by the increased price. So drive down the price and the rest should happen naturally. They say there's other stuff in there as well, though. They're saying for the first time, we do need to eat a little less meat and dairy. That will happen naturally. Our diets will just change. They say by 2040, perhaps 27% fewer sheep and cows in Britain. And some of that pasture land then could go over to woodland. They're also saying the aviation industry needs to pick up the tab for decarbonising. They're not saying no new runways, so we're going to get a decision on Gatwick tomorrow. They're kind of saying, all right, you can do that, but aviation industry needs to pay to decarbonise. That will cost serious money and will drive up the cost of flights. So we can expect if the government goes down these lines, we can expect the cost of our holidays abroad to go up a little bit.
Again, we've heard, haven't we, from BP today saying they're going to cut back on their commitments to changing their approach to carbon commitments, climate commitments. Are we seeing like a little bit of a shift because of the person who's now in the White House?
I think we are. That drill baby drill agenda that America's got, tearing up Joe Biden's climate policies, focusing on getting as much oil and gas as you can. I think that given a bit of kind of space for companies like BP to respond to pressure they're getting from shareholders to say, listen, you need to make more money. They look over at Shell and Exxon, who are making far more money at the moment than BP, and they're saying, listen, guys, you need to stop the emphasis on renewables and focus on where the money is. So it gives them cover to do that. But when you speak to the Climate Change Committee, or indeed to any climate scientists, they say, listen, in the short term, that might be the profitable thing to do. We've got to remember that climate change is happening, driven by human activities, and it will affect all of us and all nature in the world in the future. And if we don't try and do our bit to reduce climate change, that will be incredibly expensive for all of human society in the future. So there's this massive long-run need to tackle climate change, and we have to look a bit longer than just the next couple of years. We have to look into the future and make the changes we need to do now to make sure Britain has an economy that's fit for that future.
Really good to have you here, Justin. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for your time.